it's a feeling of peace and calm. There's right away a bit of a, the mind is unsettled. It's not as peaceful as it used to be. And depending on the negative emotion that arises, jealousy, for example, we spoke about it yesterday, how right away it makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you worry, it makes you feel dissatisfied. So, therefore the point is that actions accumulated, certain actions of body, speech and mind, even though the consequences may not be experienced right away, they are at some point. They are at some point. So, and if there is future life, and then really, karma only really makes sense if there is future life, then the actions of this lifetime will influence our future. So, it's our own hand. We like to suffer? Okay, let's just go on like that. Let's just act and react the way we want to in an uncontrolled fashion. If we want to be happy, if we want to continue to transform our mind in the next life, in the future. So then, let's create the causes. And like I said, if there are no future lives, well, never mind. At least we die happily. Okay? So we're happy right now. We feel better right now. That's the reward right away. We die without regret. And then, if there is no future life, well, never mind. And if there is, okay, we're well prepared. Win-win situation. Okay? So, that's the idea of karma. How does karma work? Well, karma is really complicated. It's very complicated. What is the exact cause for all our exact experiences? But trust me, what is the exact cause for this apple? Anything is complicated. Take an apple. What exactly gave rise to this apple? How much water went into the production of this apple? How much fertilizer? What were the minerals? Very subtle. I can say, oh, there was a seed, there was an apple seed. I can say for sure it was not a peach seed. Right? That I can say for sure. It was an apple seed. But how big the apple seed was, by looking at the result, how big was the apple seed, what was the color, what were the exact minerals or the exact whatever else you have in an apple seed, right? What was the exact color? I don't know. I don't need to know. It's not like, oh my God, apple, I need to know the cause now. Likewise, whatever experience I have, what was the exact cause? How can I tell? Or when you have a seed, what will this apple tree look exactly? How many leaves will it have? How big will each branch be? How many apples? What will be the exact color? Is anyone can tell? Extremely subtle. Extremely subtle. What are the atoms that give rise? What kind of atoms do you need? Come on. I mean, who needs to know? Who cares? So karma is similar. This an exact action. What will be the result? I don't know. Because I keep accumulating new actions and they merge with the other actions. Some actions are transformed. We say purified or enhanced, etc. So it's a constant change. It's not like you have one result of an action sitting on its own over there somewhere and no one touches it. No. All our actions again and again influence our past actions, as in like reduce a negative karma, maybe enhance a negative karma, or enhance a positive karma, destroy a positive karma. All of this is constantly happening. So we have a very simplified way of talking about it, in the same way as when you speak to a gardener, very simplified way to talk about how apples grow. Put a seed in the ground, put water, fertilizer, wait, apple tree. Right? That's all you need to know in order to sow an apple. You don't need to know the atomic or molecular consistence of that seed, and you don't need to know that. If you want apples, that's what you do. Okay. So likewise, karma is similar. We want to make choices. We accumulate the causes to make choices. We want to be trusted by others. We want to be appreciated by others. We want to have teachers who continue teaching us. We accumulate the causes. And they're very similar to we accumulate the causes, and they're very similar to the result. Right? But if you want an apple tree, don't plant a peach seed. Right? If you want a pear tree, don't sow grape seeds. I mean, it's just not going to work. So likewise, if you want happiness, give out happiness. If you want to suffer, give out suffering. Our own choice. So it's extremely empowering. Now, there are some misunderstandings of karma. I might as well speak about them right away. Well, does karma mean we should just sit back and if something terrible happens to us, we should just bear it and see, oh, this is our karma? Of course not. Of course not. Why? Because it's not like we have one blob of karma. You know, we're kind of like, there's one karma that ripens in this lifetime and there's really nothing we can do. Each moment, each experience is the result of an action we accumulated in the past. So if something happens to us, well, we're very likely to have accumulated the cause for the removal of that problem. So for example, we get sick. Well, the experience of sickness is the result of harming someone, but we've also benefited others many times in the past. Therefore, it's very likely that we also have the karma to be cured. We've definitely been doctors many, many times in the past. We've been, you know, physicians, we've been nurses and so forth. So it's very likely that because of having helped others, having looked after sick people and so forth, we also have the karma to get better. So we go to the doctor, take medicine, and then it shows whether we have the karma to be cured or not. If we do, great. Okay, let's make sure we don't accumulate causes to be sick again by neither eating food that's harmful and engaging in actions that are negative. Because it's not like the external and the internal are totally unrelated. Food is also important, but positive actions are both true. If it was only food, if it was only looking after your body by exercising and eating food, well then healthy people would never get sick. Right? I mean, we meet people who live their entire life in such a healthy way. They're so healthy, they do everything, they work for others, and they get cancer. It still happens. Which means actions of the past can still come through. But that's an action of the past, and we all have accumulated the causes to get cancer. So it's not like, oh, I don't have cancer, I'm a little better. They have cancer? No, 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 no. It's not like that. We all have accumulated the causes to get cancer, to be killed in a terrorist attack, to win the lottery, to experience a Holocaust, to, I don't know, have thousands of friends and become the president of Israel, prime minister. Right? We all have, there's nothing we haven't done in the past. If we have existed before, if there's karma, we can't posit the beginning. So, it's just the circumstances that then somehow lead to the ripening of a karma. In the same way, you have a seed in the ground. Some seeds sprout at a certain time, other seeds sprout at a different time. Do we know exactly why? No, it's hard to say. You know, you have two seeds next to each other. One sprouts on Monday, the next on Wednesday. There are definitely causes that are responsible for that. We just don't know what they are. So the point is, we've accumulated so much karma, so when something negative happens to us, we need to try and find a cure. Likewise with regard to other people. If other people suffer, no one deserves to suffer. Karma is not about deserving. No one deserves to suffer. We accumulate these causes unknowingly. Right? We don't want to. It's not like I do something and I'm thinking, oh, one day I'll experience great suffering. Yeah, let's bring it on. We never accumulate causes with that intention. We accumulate causes to be happy. We want to be happy. We just don't know how. So we make mistakes. So actually the same way as I make lots of mistakes, so do other people. And sometimes an action has been accumulated thousands of years ago. Now we experience the result. The person may have totally changed, totally be transformed. So how can we say they deserve it? They don't deserve it. No one deserves to suffer. So when someone experiences problems, to understand, okay, it's the ripening of a karma. Just as I have that same karma, definitely. Now it's my responsibility to help. Because that could become a trigger for the ripening of a positive karma that helps them. Right? So if you're a doctor and someone is sick, okay, so it's the ripening of a karma. The good thing is that karma now, since it ripens, the result of that can never be experienced again. So once it's gone, it's gone. That's one good thing. Secondly, they have plenty of karma, so I don't know how great the likelihood is, but they're very likely to be also cured. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know how many people in this world get cured on a daily basis. I mean, how many people stay sick and how many people get cured. I guess it depends on the disease. But to find out, we need to help them. Right? As a doctor, we prescribe medicine. And sometimes the medicine helps, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it helps a little. Sometimes they get totally better. So if it was just the medicine, if it was just that, then everyone would react the same. Okay, we could say the body is different, but why is the body different? Where does the difference come from? We were born with a certain body. Why? Again, from a Buddhist point of view, it's also karma. So, all those forces being at work, therefore, if another person has a problem, it's not about hashtag karma, they deserve it. No, that's totally not. No. Oh my God, they experienced the ripening of an action in the past. How terrible. I could experience this at any time. What can I do to help? They're just like myself. There's not much difference. I mean, what we have in common is much more than what is different. Right? The differences are very superficial. Externally, skin deep. Right? And then a few shapes maybe. All right. Then mentally, we all want to be happy. That's what, on the most profound level, we all want to be happy. Whoever you meet, whoever I meet, I know this person just wants to be happy, wants to be content, wants to not suffer. Right? Yeah, wants to be free from problems. We all have that in common. And usually we connect to people when we have something in common with them. But we have very funny reasons. Sometimes it's because of the haircut, the hairstyle, the music they listen to, the kind of community they come from. Quite superficial reasons. Much more profounder and deeper reason is the reason that we all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. Look around these animals. The little cat was in here. She doesn't want to suffer. I said she, I don't know whether she's she, but anyway, so she doesn't want to suffer. She wants to be happy. The dogs, the insects. Everyone is the same. Yeah? So we have much more in common with other living beings than the differences we have. I mean, there's much more things we have in common rather than differences. And we can choose. Like the Tibetans, the Tibetans, they feel close to someone not because of the music they listen to or because they do yoga or not, and because, I don't know, they come from this community or that community. It depends on which village they come from, which area in Tibet. That's it. Some of my classmates, they were best friends only with people from that area. So that's the reason they chose. So we can choose the reason to feel close to others because they're just like us. They want to be happy. So if you meet an obnoxious person and you go, no, that person, not going to be my friend. Okay? Why? Because they're A, B, C, D, they do such and such, right? But then if you go deeper and you go, well, underneath, okay, let's check underneath it. So, what is underneath? Like, what is like the driving force? They want to be happy. They just want to be happy. And they don't want to suffer. They just don't know how. If they engage in actions that are disruptive and negative and harmful, if they knew these actions were harmful and actually harming them in the long term, would they do it? I don't think so. If they knew that in the future, this will be the experience, maybe in the next life, maybe, I don't think they would do it. We're so narrow-minded. We see right away, maybe the next moment. Oh, I feel better in 5 minutes if I beat up this guy. We are very much concerned with short-term happiness. Long-term happiness, that's where unprotected sex comes from, right? Short-term satisfaction. I mean, right, if you think about it, you have unprotected sex, like, this guy, this woman, oh my God, never mind, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. You really want that satisfaction, immediate satisfaction. And next day you wake up and you go, oh, shit, what did I do? Oh my God, to have an STD or not. Unprotected sex, I think, is a good example of short-term happiness sacrificing long-term happiness over short-term happiness. So when we're angry in that moment, it's the anger that wants us to just hit that person. I feel better. So I'm going to feel better if I just punch him in the face. And then afterwards, whoops, court cases and the balagan afterwards, right? All the mess that happens. So, actually, when we think, let's not consider short-term harm. Short-term harm is not a problem. Short-term happiness is not important. Long-term happiness is important. Health is based on that, right? Okay, have a hamburger, feel really good. Okay, have a lot of fries and I feel long-term. I mean, actually, I can explain karma to Israelis easily Israelis who eat healthy food. Same principle. What I put in my body does not get lost. Short term, I may feel even better, have a strong Coke or whatever. I may even feel more energetic. Long term, problem. Same idea. Did you have a question?
Yeah. I'm thinking about different situations of racism or violence towards
good example.
people.
Yeah.
So how's it coming together with karma?
Yes. Good example. Does it mean to be gay or to have a certain race to have negative karma? No. Because first of all, not every gay person experiences violence, right? Okay,
yeah,
so that's
something that happens in generally in societies, violence and racism and
okay. Let me just
towards specific community.
Okay, so let me just ask one question. Are you talking about the people who experience the racism, or the people who are who cause racism? Which one are you specifically talking? Because it's different. Why are people racist? Why are people?
I think I'm talking about the people that are experiencing that. I was thinking about the Tibetan people and about like how karma connects or affects on like.
Collective karma. You're speaking about collective karma. Okay. So as a group of people may have a similar experience. Okay? So a group of people may have a similar experience. That would be called collective karma. It's a good question. I mean, sometimes we have an individual experience that no one shares with us. I may have a headache right now, and you don't have a headache, so it's not a collective karma. But in a way, also what we experience in this room, the temperature, etc. So certain experiences we have, they're collective when they're similar. They're never identical. Never identical. Because every Tibetan experiences the loss of their country differently. Some Tibetans don't care. Right? Some Tibetans seriously don't care. I actually knew a Tibetan who didn't want freedom for Tibet. They were very happy in India. I met one Tibetan person who I spoke to. Yes, he was the boyfriend of a Western woman I knew. And she always told me he was hoping that he liked Dharamsala so much, he hoped that it didn't happen. It's like even those people exist. But, of course, there are Tibetans who suffer greatly from it, and at different degrees. And is this the result of karma? Yes. I mean, if you ask a Tibetan, is this the result of actions they've accumulated in the past? Absolutely. But even we are affected by that. Some in a positive way, some in a negative way. Even us, we may not be aware of it, but even the karma of Tibetans those who have encountered Buddhism, whose life has changed, because now the Tibetans came out, because of course there's also a positive karma that can be experienced as a result. Actually in China, Tibetan Buddhism is now very popular. Very popular. Why? Because Tibet is a part of China officially. Tibetans freely go to China. Chinese come to Tibet. And there's this whole new group of people, like wealthy, well-educated Chinese who've just developed over there's so many, thousands right now, who are interested in Buddhism. They come to Tibet to see the lamas and study with the lamas and so forth. We don't really hear about this because the Chinese government is definitely not going to make that very, very widely known. But I know for a fact, a classmate of mine has many students. He's in Tibet now. He has many Chinese students who learn Buddhism. In fact, one of the most popular people in China has just been elected a Kagyu Kempo, has been as the most popular person of the year in China, a Tibetan monk. Right? So for some people, what happened in Tibet can also become the condition for the ripening of positive karma. For some people, what happened in Tibet can be the condition for the ripening of a negative karma. It just depends. So individually, it's very different when you say one collective karma. I spoke about this yesterday. I'm not sure you were here. You were here, yeah. So I spoke about, sometimes we say the suffering of all sentient beings. And it seems there's this one big cloud of the suffering of all sentient beings. No. It doesn't exist. Such a cloud, such a summary of all the suffering. It doesn't exist. It's just something created by our own mind. There's each and every person's individual suffering. So likewise, when we talk about karma, there's similar karma, right? Similar karma that people experience They have similar experiences, and we call it collective karma because the cause that gave rise to the triggering of the karma is similar. But the experience may be very, very different, individually different. And yes, I think in general, most Tibetans experience it as negative. But at the same time, they know it's not permanent. It's changing. So the karma will be exhausted one day, will not continue forever. It's impossible that Tibet will never have freedom. That, you know, or that the situation will always stay the same. Let's put it that way. I don't know whether Tibet will gain freedom again, but that the Chinese have the power over Tibet the way they have now, it's impossible. Right? Look at all the empires in the world. The Roman Empire, the Egyptian, I mean, all the power. Like now America is the most powerful country in the world. Well, 200 years from now, maybe they're like a third world country. It's happened in the past, you know. Look around. Everything has changed, always is changing. So things will never be the same. But my point is here that this collective karma here, there's a group of people who experience a similar karma. But similar, not the same.
And the reason of this karma is also different?
Yes, the reason is also very different. It's not like they've all met one day, 6 million people met one day and decided, let's oppress some. I mean, it doesn't happen, right? So everyone accumulated, you know, like, I mean, good example is every time I fly on a plane, I go on a plane, I'm thinking, what's our collective karma in this plane? Do we have the karma to die together? Right? I just wonder, I look around and go, okay, that might be, because I'm not really that comfortable with flying. It's okay now, but I'm thinking, so have I accumulated the cost to die in an airplane crash? Yes. I don't know. Yes. Why not? Which karma have I not accumulated? So I've accumulated that. I don't know whether this is the time for us. And it's different. I've accumulated at a different time than other people. But we may experience it all together. And if the person who has accumulated the karma to die in an airplane has also created it, but it's not the time. It's not going to ripen now. Something else has happened, so another karma ripened. They'll miss their flight. Right? And it seems a negative karma ripened. They missed their flight. But in the end, it was positive because they kept their life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm still confused about it.
How?
Because I think that a lot of, like, I'm thinking about LGBT gay people. They're walking in Jerusalem and like a child that gets bitten.
Stacked, wasn't there a girl?
And it's something that repeats, yeah? Like not the same child, like the same approach is, I guess, not exactly the same, but kind of the same for a lot of people that are attracted to the same gender. So it doesn't really make, like...
So you're saying, okay, so those people, does it mean because they sometimes experience suffering, does that mean they're worse people?
Yeah, they are born as attracted to like the same sex. And that means that they're gonna experience suffering.
But do all people who are attracted to the same sex experience suffering?
No, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them, but a lot of people who are attracted to another sex also experience a lot of suffering. Right? I mean, I'll tell you the story. When I was studying at the IBT, when I was educated, I was the only woman in my class. And first of all, everything they did, I felt like they're misogynist, whatever they say, they're going against it, they're doing something. Now, when I checked, it wasn't always the case, by the way, right? Sometimes they said something totally innocently. And I thought they were actually against women, which wasn't true. But sometimes they did. It was totally true. So I suffered. I was like, this is just not right. I don't deserve this. I'm a woman. I should be... and I was so angry. I was full of anger. You know, I couldn't control it. And I was like, oh, don't be angry, don't be angry. But no, it's not right. Those monks and, you know, for the longest time, every now and then I got really upset about it. And then I was like, I suffer so much just because I'm a woman. This is Buddhism. There should be da-da-da-da. And like I said, some of the things I thought I was discriminated wasn't. It was just my imagination. They said it innocently. They said it to everyone else. And when I understood that, I looked around and I realized they don't treat me that different. But of course they treat me differently, a little differently. But then I spoke to one of my classmates and I said, you know, you have no idea what it's like to be a woman. I have so much suffering. And he was like, I also have a lot of suffering. I was like, you do? He's like, of course. And then he told me his problems. And I was like, yeah, it may not be because he's a woman, but because of da. So in the end, he was like, don't think your life is that different. Sometimes because you're a woman, you're treated specially, which is also true. You know, I sometimes got special teachings, which my monks classmates didn't get because the teachers would think, oh, you know, the poor girl, she's on her own. I'll give her a special teaching. My classmates didn't get that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got something special, you know. So that is true for anyone. When you're maybe in a minority, there are also benefits there, you know. I mean, you sometimes meet very interesting people because you're interesting. I mean, I know a friend of mine, she met a she's very lovely. She met a transgender in Dharamsala. She's like, oh, he's so cool. And right away wanted to be his friend. You know, like my aunt, she's gay. Everyone in my family thinks she's so cool. Because we got a gay aunt. How cool is that, right? So my cousins, they all thought she was especially cool. So come on, it's not always, you see, it's very hard to generalize and say, yes, they're also the victims of certain crimes, but being a woman, I'm the victim of certain crimes. I can be. In some places, being German, people don't like me. When I was little, I went to Italy with my family, and my sister and I just walked along in a kind of deserted area away from the beach, and we spoke German. I was 7, she was 5, and some elderly women were like, Amanda! And they started screaming at us, and one person, it was just a small stone, but at least I threw a stone, you know? And we're like, oh, Mom and Dad! And then my parents explained, well, you know, it was the Second World War, this is what happened, and yeah. But I still remember that. I was like, I didn't do anything, but see? So it happens. You don't have to be gay for that to happen. And there are some good things. So we can't generalize. We can't generalize. We have to really look at each situation. In some areas, like in San Francisco, I mean, it's totally accepted.
Canada.
Pardon?
Also Canada.
Canada, yeah, a lot of places. In some places, when you're black, huge problem. In some places, you're black, very good. You don't want to be white. It just depends, right? It does depend. And we're so used to Europe. How much do we know about Africa? You know, there's a whole continent where people have a different skin color. It's not a problem. You don't suffer from racism. You suffer other problems because of maybe religious discrimination, yes, and other diseases and so on. But we have to look. That is not a cause for suffering. It can be a trigger of people discriminating.
You become the strain. When I was traveling in Africa, they looked at me like I'm a witch. The small children, they were really frightened of me because she's like, you know, she's like white and
yeah, exactly.
They were terrifying. I was trying to say to him lunch and they started crying, and I was like, what? And said no, that's because.
Yeah, every time I look at an Indian child and the parents want me to take a picture, they're always screaming. Those children, you know, their parents like want me. They're like. Being a nun, seriously, even my niece, she's a little scared of me, like the way I look.
I wanted to ask something. You're talking about karma, you're saying what we do will eventually come okay?
With a positive or negative motivation,
right.
yeah.
So I'm thinking about if we are connected the way I see things, okay, we're not individuals really. So maybe it's a bit different. Maybe what we do will affect not us, but other people. And that leaves us in a place of responsibility, because maybe what I do in this lifetime will affect her in
the
future incarnations.
But that's true, that's still true. Of course it does. I mean, if you, very simply, if you put something in the environment, if you put poison somewhere, I don't know, into a field, it will affect future generations. Whether how strongly they feel the effect, I don't know. You see, I'm saying there's the volitional law of cause and effect that is working. The volitional law of cause and effect is the law of cause of karma. I call it volitional because it's volitional action, intentional actions lead to. Oh yeah, what's the word for volition? In Hebrew? Can you say it now? Retzonim. So the law of karma. So the law of karma is a volitional law of karma, a law of cause and effect. But then you have other laws of cause and effect, and they work together. So if you put a seed in the ground, you still get an apple tree. So that affects also other generations. That is still true. So don't see them as separate. They're very well working together, right? They're working together very well. There's no contradiction. Yes.
I once heard that don't